not want to listen to this one, then you might close this clip. If you're strong enough to listen to something that might be extremely painful, then you'll be able to listen to this. This comes to me a lot when parents complain with a lot of emotion and frustration how their children are acting, how they're fighting with one another. And I listen, and I listen, and I listen to the whole story. And then I pause, quiet, and then on the phone usually, I ask the parent, I tell them I don't mean to judge you in any way, and I will not judge you, but I'm just curious, when was the last argument you had with your spouse? And there's silence on the phone, and many times there's a giggle. Well, I just had it 2 hours ago, I had it last night, I had it yesterday. And I said, only if you feel comfortable, if you don't mind telling me about your argument. So I'll give 2 examples from the many. One example is my wife came home and she bought stuff for $500. And I got so upset because we had this agreement years ago that if there's any expense that's over $100, we will discuss it. And I asked my wife so nicely, I say, didn't we have a deal? Didn't we have an agreement that any expense over $100, obviously besides food shopping, but if it's clothing or anything else? And she started yelling at me. I should stop being controlling. She feels like she's being stifled. Every time she buys something, I have to look at the receipt, and she started yelling at me. To be honest with you, I got very, very upset at her. And she never even responded to what I said. We had a deal that if you spend something, if it's not food, and if you buy clothing or whatever it is, if it's over $100, we're just going to discuss it before. And they go on how the argument went on. The other example is with the woman telling me, my husband came home after a long day. I had the kids for 3.5 hours after school. They were fighting. I couldn't do homework. It was just so overwhelming. Sometimes they even cried to me. And I would expect them to come home and the first thing just dive in and to help out or to say, how are you? I come downstairs, he's sitting on the couch on the phone, and I just lost it. I just lost it. You never said you just came home. You never came to ask me how I'm doing. I'm upstairs stopping 5 fights with the kids. I cannot do homework. I didn't even start bathing the kids yet. And I just lost it, to tell you the truth. I just lost it. I just yelled at him. And I listen to these adults telling me real stories. And I don't mean to hurt anyone's feelings. I ask a simple question to parents. I say, I understand that that was very hurtful what your spouse did to you. But isn't it interesting how you just justified your argument, and yet we never seem to justify our children's argument? Now, by the way, and I try to say this very quietly because I don't want to take that huge knife and just stab it into the hearts. Dear parents, dear all of us, let's realize our children mimic us. They just copy us. We still need to learn a lot how to communicate. Now, the 2 examples I gave you is very valid, and they need to be worked out, but we lose it. And we justify losing it because how dare the spouse be that way? Guess what? Our prefrontal cortex is developed. We have logic. We have read. We're adults. We're parents. And we still lose it. And yet the child that the prefrontal cortex was not developed yet, they do not get training. Plus, they do not have good role models. Their role models is us. So when they're busy fighting and arguing, they feel like they have a right. They feel like their friend or their sibling has really hurt them. Why are they behaving that way? Sorry for saying the truth, but I will say it. Because we behave that way. One more time. Why do they behave that way? Because we behave that way. Pretty cruel. We train them to behave in a certain way, and then when they mimic us, we punish them because they were busy fighting with their siblings.